Hey everybody, what's going on, man? This is your man Big B, Brian Hanley. Welcome back to Steelers Almighty. Man, we have got a good show today. Just coming live. Just got some stuff we need to talk about. Interesting stuff happened over the weekend with the combine. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff. First off, we're going to talk about some of the offseason misses that happened that we learned about over the weekend and today for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to talk about the combines, basically from the Steelers' point of view of some of the things that either did or did not happen at the combine, and then some problems that the Steelers are going to have to fix. In this offseason, I mean, it's coming up fast, but problems that the Steelers are going to have to fix, man. There's some issues that are going on out there that we have to fix. To have a good team next year. We gotta be able to put this stuff together, man. So we're gonna talk about all that. So I appreciate all the support out there. Again, if you want your question, comment, or rant up on the screen, you know how to do that to help support the channel. Super chats are wide open. Also, memberships are also available. So if you want to become a member, you know how to do that. There's a link in the comment section of the chat. You can click on that, and also on the front of the page. Got a lot of content in there. The all 22 game films are in there. Did another one today. Some interesting stuff, man. Going back and look at that, the entire game again. It's interesting stuff. So I appreciate you guys, man. Let's get into this thing. So first things first, the offseason, some of the misses that the Steelers have had this offseason. Let's start there. First, Matthew Stafford. I told you guys from the very beginning that Matthew Stafford was not coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said it. Some people argued. Some people agreed. Most of you agreed that he wasn't coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said that he's going to treat us just like Brandon Ayuk did as the side piece. He was never going to come to Pittsburgh, and that was the case. They struck a deal, so no trading for Matthew Stafford. What are available options? Here's a one that just popped up today. Well, I guess it popped up over the weekend at the combine. Derek Carr from the New Orleans Saints. Now, I know that their GM, Mickey Loomis, I believe that's his name, said, oh, we have no intentions on trading Derek Carr. You know, he's going to play with us in the 2025 season. Yeah, okay. That was in February/March. Give it a couple of weeks, and we'll see if he's still singing that same tune. Now, the Steelers aren't going to trade for Derek Carr. There's no way the Steelers are going to trade for him, because I believe if they trade for him, they'd have to pay, it's like the cap hits like $40 million or something like that. So there's no way that the Steelers are going to trade for him. But if he gets cut, there's a possibility there. So that's another name that popped up. Now, that one might have a little bit of meat to it. You know, the Stafford thing had nothing. I wasn't buying that even for a little bit. The Derek Carr getting cut by the New Orleans Saints, that's got something to it. The Saints didn't like, I mean, if they could have got out of his contract last year, they would have done it. So now they can, and I feel like they're going to. So I feel like the Derek Carr, possibly that might have a little bit of meat to it. And here's a question. Would you guys like Derek Carr if he became available? Again, no trade. Absolutely no trade for Derek Carr. But if Derek Carr gets cut, are you on board if the Steelers say, you know what, let's take a little peek. Let's peel back that onion a little bit and see if Derek Carr has anything left. So that would be my thing, is that do we trust Derek Carr to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers? So I'm not sure, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Another miss that happened is obviously T. Higgins. If anybody didn't see today, T. Higgins is getting franchised again by the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, from the very beginning of this, I was a person that told you there's no way T. Higgins has come to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was out there, and Steeler reporters were trying to, oh, well, T. Higgins is. I'm like, he's not coming here. I'm like, I don't even know why you're talking about this. It's not a realistic possibility. He's coming from Joe Burrow. Even if he didn't sign back with Pittsburgh or with Cincinnati, he was never going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I just at some point we have to start living in reality and not fantasy land. Okay? He wasn't coming here, and now we know he's not. So there we go. He's not coming here. So the bottom line is that T. Higgins going back to Cincinnati, that's another miss. I don't even know if it was a miss because that was never realistic. Like T. Higgins as a Pittsburgh Steeler was never, ever realistic. And I told you guys that. And a lot of you believed me, but some of you didn't. And you kept saying, well, let's go get T. Higgins. I'm like, bro, we're not going to get T. Higgins. What? You got to get out of fantasy land. It's not happening. And now, finally, we can put an end to it and just say that they're not coming. Period. End of story. So now where does the shift? Well, I don't know. Here's another thing that's been thrown out there. The Shedeur Sanders of the world. There's talks about Shedeur Sanders just completely falling off the map and Shedeur Sanders just dropping in this draft. There's a lot of people that like Jackson Dart better than Shedeur Sanders. Okay. If Shedeur Sanders falls to 21, do the Pittsburgh Steelers take him? I'll be honest. No. I don't want Shedeur Sanders. I've told you guys from the very beginning, and it's not that I don't like him. It's not that I'm a hater, because if y'all know me, y'all know I'm a big Deion supporter. My Big 12 channel, I'm a huge Deion supporter. But I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I just don't. There's no way that I take Shedeur Sanders at 21. No way. We did that already, didn't we? Didn't we do that a couple years ago? Took a guy that wasn't necessarily a first-round talent. We took him in the first round, and then 2 years later, he wasn't even on our football team. I think we've done that already, okay? So I think it's time that we have to pass on doing that again. I get that we need a quarterback, but there's no reason to reach for that. You reach for elite talent. You reach for generational talent. You don't reach for a guy that's got a middle-of-the-road arm. That you don't know anything, that's not a superior athlete, a mediocre arm, that doesn't do anything. The best thing that Shedeur Sanders does is that he's super tough. Because to be able to take all those hits and sacks with that pathetic offensive line, you got to have some toughness to you. Now, some people say, well, he holds on too long. Okay, that's fine. But he still took all those hits. I mean, he literally played with a broken back. I mean, that happened. But I say no. I say absolutely not. For me, I'm done. Not done. I just don't. I don't want him at that spot. I don't want him at that spot. So that kind of goes there. Then we got the no Deebo Samuels. I was skeptical with Deebo, but I was willing to do it. If I would have known that the Steelers could get him with the 5th round pick, I'd have been in on Deebo. And some people are saying, well, $17 million. I'm like, well, first of all, we got to pay somebody. Okay. We can't just not pay anybody. It was a 1-year deal. It's not like you had to pay him, $60 million over the next 2 years. It was 1 year that you had to pay $17 million. Maybe he's got something. Maybe he doesn't. But he upgraded the talent that the Pittsburgh Steelers have, at the skill position. He definitely did that. And for a 5th round pick, you don't think he can come and contribute more than what a 5th round pick could do? Come on, man. So, like I said, I like him. I'm not heartbroken that we didn't do the deal, but my question is, did we really offer anything? And if we did, why wasn't it a 5th round pick to see if they would deal with us? I mean, obviously it takes 2 to tango, so you don't know if San Francisco wanted to do a deal with the Steelers or not. I don't know why they wouldn't, but for a 5th round pick, yeah. And that's a good point. We gave up a 5th round pick for Mike Williams. So there's that. And you think that Debo would have contributed more than what Mike Williams did last year? I think he would have. I think he would have. So that's what you have to consider. So, but either way, we didn't get any of those. We didn't get any of those. Um, the Stafford one, I knew was never going to happen. The T. Higgins, that was never, ever, ever going to happen. I don't know why people kept throwing that name out there. I get it. It's a dead period and people need stuff to talk about, but I just went the opposite way. I'll talk about it, but I'm going to tell you why it's never, ever going to happen. And it didn't. And then the Debo Samuels, look, I'm a person that doesn't believe that Debo's a good receiver. I don't think he's that good, but I do think his talent and what he brings to the table upgraded the skill position talent that the Steelers could have had. And for a 5th-round pick, $17 million or not, if we could have done it, I would have been okay with it. Since we didn't get it, I'm still okay with it. Wasn't make or break for me whatsoever, man. Wasn't make or break for me whatsoever. So there's that, man. Let's move on to some of this combine stuff. Look, I don't know if the pressure is on. I don't know if that's the right word. But what I would say is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking heavily at it looks more and more like the Steelers are going defensive line in the first round. It looks real, but and there's some guys out there that did some stuff. I mean, the D-line made a statement. A guy, look, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan seems to be the consensus of what most people think the Steelers are going to do if they take a D lineman in the first round. But Derek Harmon sure did show out. Athletic freak. He ran a 4.9 40, 6'4", 313, second team All-American. Had 55 pressures, 12 more than any other D lineman. So I like Harmon. Played well. And I usually don't necessarily like interior linemen, either offense or defense, from Oregon. Because I always say they're finesse. Because anytime Oregon has to play a team that's really physical, they lose. And that's kind of been their MO. So I'm real leery about that. Well, here we are. I'm talking about Derek Harmon, and I just think he's good. Now, is he a nose tackle? No. I think he's more of a 3 technique, a 4-eye. But as we know, the Steelers have been in the nickel, like I said, 58% of the time this year, which is crazy. But they were. So if you're going to do that, then you're going to have a 3 technique. He fits that role. Not to mention Cam Hayward's not going to play forever, man. He's just not going to play forever. I know he had an all-pro season this year, but can you count on that again next year? Maybe you can. I don't know. I mean, we didn't see any signs of Cam slowing down. You know what I'm saying? We didn't see any signs of that. So, but I like it. I think that he's an athletic guy. Ty Robinson made himself some money. 4'8", he's 6'5", 288. He weighed a little lighter than what I thought. He played all over the middle of that Nebraska line. His motor is incredible. He's an old guy. He's 24 years old. Played 66 or 60 career games and all 6 at Nebraska. That's odd. That a 6-year senior, that's not so these days because of COVID and transfer and injury, all that stuff. Okay, fine. But to do it all at one school, that's a little rare. Usually guys are moving around when they're playing that long or in college that long. So, I don't know. That's kind of my thing as far as what I would say about those guys. I like Harmon. I like Robinson, but it seems like Grant is the guy. It seems like the Steelers have kind of cooled, and not just the Steelers. Seems like a lot of people have cooled on the Walter Nolan. A lot of people are talking about Walter Nolan maybe didn't want to work out. What was the reason? He wasn't hurt. You're a D lineman. What's the reasoning that you didn't want to work out at the combine? I don't know. I don't know. I heard maybe he's not that big of a competition guy. That's why he left Texas A&M and went to Ole Miss. And you know, now one thing they talked about, they brought up, or people, I should say, I shouldn't say they, because I hate when people say, well, they. I'm like, who the hell is they? The rumors that are going around is that he was chasing money in college. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, first of all, I don't know his finances, so I'm not counting his pocket. But you're telling me somebody can get paid at school and they can go to another top flight school and get paid more money. Why wouldn't you go do that if you could? I don't find anything wrong with that at all. I don't find anything wrong with it. And people can say, well, he doesn't want to compete. I'm like, and maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But if Ole Miss offered more money than Texas A&M, which is odd because A&M, hey, look, A&M has more money than anybody, more money than Texas, Ohio State. They have more money than anybody. But having said all of that, if Walter Nolan, maybe he just got a better vibe. I don't know. Either way, he left. But the teams are starting to cool on him a little bit. They're starting to cool. It was almost like teams were put off that he didn't work out at the combine. They were like, look, man, what's the deal here? You know, there's no reason for you not to work out. And I don't know. Sometimes that can hurt you. Sometimes that can hurt you. So I hope for his sake that he has a great workout. I hope for his sake that he has a good workout. Let me go to some of this here. My man Capricorn Steel, he is a member, said we can get it through nose in later rounds or in free agency. See, that's kind of my thinking. I think the Steelers, I mean, if they don't get Grant, who would be a nose tackle, if they don't get him, they can still get a nose tackle. First off, free agency comes before the draft anyway. So I think we just need D linemen. I think we need productive D linemen. We definitely got to have a nose. We got to get Keanu Benton out of nose tackle. We got to get him out of there. He's not big enough. That's not his position. So we need to get a guy that can do that. So hopefully we can find that. I would love to do it in free agency, but if we can't, you do it through the draft. But whatever the case, it's got to be addressed. And I think that's the key, is the Steelers have to address it. So that's where I'm at. Gotta have it addressed. So now the wide receivers, on the other hand, wide receivers were flying, by the way, in the combine. It was the fastest the fastest 40 times in the history of wide receivers. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I mean, what did they have? 10 guys under 4.4? Just flying. Absolutely flying. And a couple of guys ran faster that I had on the Steelers' radar, maybe third round, maybe bumped themselves up. One of those guys was Jaden Higgins. Yeah, I thought, he's going to be in the 4.57, 4.58 range. He ran 4.48. I'm like, uh-oh. Well, Steelers aren't going to be able to wait till the third round to get him because he's tall, 6'4", 210, but he's a good strider. But I thought, and a good route runner, I thought, you know what? He'll be around. Yeah, he's not going to be around. He's not going to be around to the third round. We're going to have to do better than that. So we're going to have to do better than that if we want to get him. But guys were flying as far as the wide receiver position is concerned. They're flying around the football. You know, Matthew Golden. Now, that's the one. A lot of people are on him. Just buyer beware, man. Just beware. Because there's another one. I'm going to go back. That's a D lineman that we got to be aware of, too. But Matthew Golden, there's a lot of people that like him. I get it. He ran an incredible time. I mean, 4.29. I mean, did his feet even touch the ground? You know, so he's absolutely booking it. But what about everything else? First of all, he's a terrible blocker. Maybe he just wasn't asked to block a lot at Texas, but he's not a good blocker. So we have to take that in consideration. But I don't know. I just think we need a bigger guy on the outside, on that side of the field. So we'll see. We'll see. To play opposite of George Pickens, because Pickens is not going anywhere, not to my knowledge. I don't think he's going anywhere. There hadn't even been any talk of Pickens going anywhere. That's just people throwing rumors out there. So we'll see. But they were definitely flying, man. There's a lot of names on this list, but we'll see. And so, like I said, even the guys that aren't on this list ran in the upper 4.4s, which that'll make you some money. That will absolutely make you some money. So I was happy about that. Just beware of Matthew Golden. Now, here's somebody else that we got to beware of the D-line. Had an incredible workout. Just absolutely incredible combine. Okay? That is Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Just beware. Okay? Now, look. He's the first guy off the bus. 6'5", 267, got a 40-inch vertical, ran a 4.59. Okay? Looks incredible. However, 1.5 sacks? I mean, now don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of things that have to happen for you to be able to sack. There's a lot of things that have to happen. You know, it's not just, hey, I beat my man, I get a sack. Okay? But 1.5? I mean, and I get it. He's got good pass rush moves, but 1.5? I'm not with that. I mean, at some point, there's got to be production. I mean, you could say the guy that's got incredible pass rush moves, he gets 1.5 sacks. What about the guy that doesn't have good pass rush moves, but he has 10? Are we just going to, well, he doesn't really have good pass rush moves, but he got 10 sacks? Or, you know what, I know the production wasn't there as far as sacks, but man, does his pass rush look incredible. Well, what would you rather have? Do you want it to look good and not have production? Or do you want it to look bad and say, just give me the production? You know, that's my thing. That's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. Just beware. Just beware. Now, granted, the Steelers aren't looking for an edge, and that's what he plays. So I don't think the Steelers are in any way, shape, or form going to draft him or even think about drafting him. But I mean, I'm just telling you, if push comes to shove, who knows what can happen in a draft? You know, people fall, people get taken, whatever, and he's sitting there for us. We would need to pass. We would need to pass. Same thing with Golden, I'm afraid. I don't like Golden. I just don't like Golden at the wide receiver position. So here's the thing about Stewart, guys. Does anybody remember a guy named Mike Mamula? I know I mentioned this last week. Does anybody remember Mike Mamula? You know, does anybody remember him? Because Mike Mamula basically made his living on one game and then had an incredible combine. Got drafted, I want to say 7th to the Eagles. And I think everybody, me and everybody in this chat, has just as many sacks or impact plays in the National Football League as he did. Okay? I don't know if anybody played in the NFL that's in this chat, but I would just be willing to say that all of us combined that are in here had as much of an impact on an NFL game as he did. I'll just throw that out there. So that's it. Crazy athlete, but could not play football the night. And he was the first guy that actually, okay, you know what? I'm going to center all my workouts. So I can go to the combine and compete at the combine. He was one of the first athletes that literally just did that, working up to the combine. I'm going to center 3-cone drill, 40, just all the drills that you do in the combine. That's what I'm going to perfect. Where other guys are like, you know, I'm just going to continue to perfect and work on techniques and this stuff. Yes, I'm going to work on a 40, but everything that I do isn't going to be curtailed to this workout. Well, he was. And now some people still do that. Don't get me wrong, but he just couldn't play football at the next level. He just couldn't do it. So it's just, I mean, there's guys that are littered all over the place. I can't remember, his last name was Smith, that went to the Eagles, did it again. But he went to Louisville. That's how I know. And then he got drafted in the first round. I mean, they're all over the place. They're all over the place. The guys that just workout warriors. Workout warriors. So just beware of the 40 times. You know, running back is the same thing. Now, running back, though, man, the running backs were flying too. I like that. There's some guys that made some good money. Look, I had been reluctant to talk about him for the simple fact you guys were going to call me a homer, but I usually don't care about that. I don't know why I did in this case, but I was nervous about what he was going to run. And he went to the combine. I figured he'd do well in everything else, but I wanted to see what he'd run in the 40. And that's DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. And then he ran a 4.43. And I said, uh-oh, hold on a second. Like other guys, I mean, he was faster than, like, I've been pressing Devin Neal. Devin Neal was 4.57. You know, I even talked about Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon, Lord have mercy. I don't even know if Ollie Gordon's draftable. He couldn't catch the ball out of the backfield. He didn't look interested. Then he went out there and ran a 4.67. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, is he even trying? It's like he's out there jogging. So, no, Richard, I was not invited to the combine, and I'm still pissed off about it 30 years later. I was not invited to the combine. Now, how that was possible, I don't know. I was a starter for 2 years for a team that was ranked number 1 in the country. You know, thought I was pretty good, but didn't get the invite. That's okay. That's okay. You can't tell I'm still bitter about that, can you? Not bitter at all. Not bitter at all. But yeah, a lot of things happened this weekend at the combine. But let's get to what we really came to talk about today, people. And that is the problems that the Steelers have to fix. Let's talk about the problems that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to need to fix to be a good football team. Look, I'm always talking about and moving on and always saying, hey, we need to just forget about this position. But obviously, it's the main position that we have to have is quarterback. Hey, we got to have this thing figured out sooner than later. Okay? We have to get this figured out sooner than later. We cannot wait until March 10th to decide on who the quarterback is going to be. We can't do that because if we do, other teams are going to get involved. Now, here's the person that I don't think there's a huge market for, and that's Russell Wilson. I don't think there's this gigantic market out there for Russell Wilson. So if I'm the Steelers, I make Russell Wilson a last resort. Because you guys know how I feel. I'm out on Russell Wilson anyway. If we don't have Russell Wilson, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay for me. But he's a last resort. So, and I know my man Capricorn's like, me neither. I get it. So, I'm 100% understand. I'm out. So, and that's right. They're talking about Russ going to the Giants. Okay, great. You can have him, take him. Goodbye. But that I think if anything, he's got to be a last resort. You guys know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh. You know how I feel about that. I've said it a million times. I am out on everything that he brings to the table. He's not good enough anymore, in my opinion, to outweigh all the other drama that he's going to bring to the field and off the field. Okay? He's not good enough anymore to deal with that. You notice how Pittsburgh will allow nonsense to go on in the locker room, and Shannon Sharpe says it best. They will tolerate you until they can replace you. Well, is Aaron Rodgers somebody that the Steelers need to even try to tolerate? I don't think he is. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he warrants that anymore. But that's just me. That's just me. So Aaron Rodgers does not have a high floor anymore. You got to stop talking that crazy talk. He does not have a high floor anymore. And here's the thing, Keith Williams, you're right. Is like, I like Russ. He just can't play anymore. So he just can't. So it is what it is. It is what it is. And I'm just past it. I'm willing to give Justin Fields an opportunity. And it's not even that I think Fields is the future. I'm a realist when it comes to that. Like, Fields hasn't done anything to tell you that he is the franchise. He hasn't done anything that says that. Nothing. And anybody that says that Fields has done something to show that he's the franchise quarterback, either you're related to Justin Fields, you don't know what you're watching, or you don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just that simple. You know, he hasn't done anything that says that. It doesn't mean that he can't, but it just means he hasn't done it yet. Am I willing to give him that opportunity in the influx of what's going on and what's available? Yeah. Yeah, I'll give him the opportunity. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. So now Mark Malone's talking about Draft Howard. Now, here's the thing that I did do. I said yesterday that Will Howard had a good combine. I have no idea what I was talking about because I watched Will Howard just stink up the joint. Will Howard had an awful combine. Now, does that mean he's going to be an awful quarterback? No, but he was awful. He was awful. So, I mean, it wasn't even, I mean, he was awful. Lord. He was so bad that there's memes all over the place on social media on how bad he actually was. So that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. Capricorn Steel with the super chat. We appreciate you, man. So Slay got cut today. Your thoughts about him as a fit or DJ Reed better? Well, that's a good question. That's a great question. I need to know, because I think Slay is older. He is. He's 34 years old. No. And here's the reason why I say no. The Steelers have done it. They just keep 1 year guy. And I'm not saying that Slay is cooked and can't play anymore or anything like that, and then there's going to be people, well, if he could play, why is Philadelphia getting rid of him? Well, salary has something to do with it. There's a salary cap. But what I would say, first of all, I think DJ Reed's better. I think that's number one. But number two, we need to address the position and not put a Band-Aid over a dam. You know, just address the issue with a guy that's going to be here for 4 years. DJ Reed's a better football player, in my opinion. And while I don't think Slay is finished, I think he's got a place. But if you're wanting him to come in and be your starting corner, that's not what the Steelers need. Now, if you're going to tell me he's going to be your nickel, okay, I could dig that. I could dig Slay being your nickel and bring him in to do that. Fine. But to be your starting corner, no. I'm not bringing him in to do that. I'm not bringing him in to do that. So DJ Reed would be my perfect fit there. And again, first of all, it's a great question. And I think he can still play. But if you notice, he's not the starting corner in Philly either. You know, they got guys. So, but if you told me that Darius Slay was going to be a nickel, I'd listen to that. I would absolutely listen to that. But the quarterback position's got to get figured out. We got to figure out what we're going to do at quarterback sooner or later, because it's got to happen this week, because the dominoes are going to start falling, and no wide receiver is coming to Pittsburgh if they don't know who the quarterback is. And guys are going to start the dominoes are going to start falling And if we're 3 days trying to figure out who the quarterback is, well, then all the wide receivers in free agency will be gone. That's why we got to get it figured out now. Got to get it now. Now, another thing that the Steelers got to get figured out is, I don't know if a lot of you knew this or not. Over the last 6 years, the Pittsburgh Steelers have the worst running attack in the National Football League, people. I'm going to say that again because I know maybe you didn't hear me or you misinterpreted what I said. Over the last 6 years, the Steelers have the worst running attack in the National Football League at 3.9 yards a carry. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. Now, part of it, didn't have great running backs. Another part of it, we've had a bad offensive line. I mean, part of it, the offensive coordinator had absolutely no imagination on how to run the football with formations or anything, play calling, setting up stuff. I mean, it's been a combination of everything, but it has to change, especially in an Arthur Smith offense. You want to run the football? Okay, great. We got to fix it. And the first part of any of it, because I'll say this until the last breath that I take talking football, you can have a mediocre running back. If he's running behind a good offensive line, that turns that mediocre running back into a good running back. Period. End of story. We've seen it over and over and over again. But it isn't often that a great running back turns a mediocre line into a good offensive line. I mean, when does that happen? Hell, even Barry Sanders. Nobody said the line was great. They just said he was great. So you got to get that fixed. And I thought they were on their way to fixing it last year, but maybe this is it. Maybe it's Faitanu at right tackle, McCormick, Frazier, Siamalu, and Broderick Jones. Maybe that's it, man. All I know is it has to get fixed. I would love if the Steelers brought in competition at right guard. I would love it. I would love it through free agency to bring in some competition. I'm not opposed to the Steelers bringing in competition at left tackle, but I know they won't do it. But I'm not opposed to that. Whatever. And you all know my philosophy, and a lot of you guys you follow that same philosophy, is we don't care who's at the positions. We just want to win. Like, I know a lot of you all out there are the same way. You don't care if Tony the Tiger is out there playing left tackle. If Tony the Tiger can move a man against his will and can block an edge and keep him off my quarterback, you don't care who it is. You don't care, and that's my thing. I don't care. So Digital Dust believes exactly what I believe. Y'all see him in the chat. Always upgrade the O-line every year if possible. You're daggone right. A couple of weeks ago, somebody asked the question in here and said, when do you stop investing in the offensive line? And my answer was very quick and very simple. Never. You never stop investing in your offensive line. Even if you've got starters, you draft somebody late, just so you can have insurance, just so you can keep adding depth. You never stop investing in it. Never. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I would love if they did that. But we got to fix the offensive line. But we also got to fix running back. I think a lot of people are in agreement that Jaylen Warren is not an every down running back. Now, he could prove us all wrong. Okay, great if he proves us wrong. But from what I've seen out of Jaylen Warren, when he starts getting up there in touches and up there in carries, his production seems to go down. So for that, that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. We need another running back. And look, there were some good running backs at the combine this weekend, man. Judkins moved up a little bit. He might be a first rounder. Who knows? At the end of the first round, he might not be there in the second round when the Steelers pick. I think DJ Giddens would be. And depending on how free agency goes, DJ Giddens, another guy, Caleb Johnson, A lot of people love Caleb Johnson. I like him. He didn't run what I wanted him to run, people. He didn't. Everybody was talking about how Caleb Johnson is a home run hitter. 4.57 doesn't tell me he's a home run hitter. That doesn't say home run hitter. I was questionable about that, but you know what? I yielded to the masses. Well, then we got to see it. I'm like, not a home run hitter. Not a home run hitter. So that's my thing. I just, we'll see. And it's not that I don't like him. And game tape and game film, don't let combines and 40 times fool you a lot. Because game tape means something. Now, did you ever see Caleb Johnson get run down from behind? I don't think so. So just remember that. It's one thing to talk about a combine. It's another thing to watch a game film and say, oh, well, nobody ran him down from behind and that was an 80-yard touchdown. Or, you know what? He broke away from people on this 57-yard touchdown like he was breaking away from people. But then you go to the combine and you run a 4.57. So, it's just different. It's just different. That's all I'm going to say. When you're training for a 40-yard dash and you run it, then you get on the field. And for instance, you can run a 40-yard dash in 4.3, but if that doesn't translate to the field on doing something, then who cares? And it isn't often that you're just running a straight line, especially for a running back. Like, how often is a running back just running straight? Now granted, you make a cut and you get in the open field and you run straight. I get it. So we'll see. We'll see. I like Caleb Johnson. He's just not a game breaker, but we'll see. We will see. Yeah, he's not a home run hitter, but his game tape showed us something. I don't know. But those are the things as far as the offensive line getting fixed. The run game's got to get fixed. We got to get offensive line play, and we got to get better at running back, people. We got to get better at running back. And running back and D-line, that's right. That's right, Landon. It's so deep, and that's the two biggest needs. We just got to fix those things, man. We got to fix those because I'll just be honest. The Steelers to have the worst running game in the last 6 years in the National Football League, that's embarrassing. That's damn right embarrassing. The next thing we got to do, we got to build wide receiver depth. There's no reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers have the kind of wide receiver depth that we have right now. There's just no reason for that. We got George Pickens, and then what? Look, we like Calvin Austin. Nobody's saying that he's a bad football player. But Calvin Austin is not a number 2 receiver. Roman Wilson was so bad. There's reports that he couldn't learn the playbook. He was hurt, couldn't get on the field in an entire season, and didn't have a season-ending injury. That's not good. Van Jeffersons of the world, the Ben Skoroneks. I mean, come on, man. What are we doing? I mean, the Steelers have to we didn't address it last year the way we thought we should have addressed it. And if they don't do it again this year, then they're not trying. If the Steelers don't get they need to get a wide receiver in free agency and draft one high in the draft. Can't go past the second round without taking a wide receiver. Now, I hate getting into absolutes, especially when it comes to the NFL draft, because you don't know what other teams are going to take, what trades, and you just don't know how it's going to unfold. But the wide receiver, it's starting to pick up. Going into the draft, it wasn't a position that everybody thought was necessarily going to be so deep. You start looking at it and you look at workouts and you're like, you know what? There's some good quality in the second and third round of this year's draft. There's some good quality receivers, guys that can come in and be number 2s. You can find that in the second and third round in this draft. Steelers got to do that. They got to do that. And it doesn't matter who's on our football team either. If we push other guys down because of who we bring in, then so be it. But we've got to upgrade the position, man. We've got to upgrade the position. So we can't just sit around and just think what we have at the wide receiver position is going to hold water. So what's going on, Ali? We appreciate you being in here, man. We're talking about upgrading the wide receiver room. We got to upgrade it. It's a must. It's a must because the room is lacking. It's lacking talent. It's just lacking talent. Again, we got Pickens, but let me just ask you guys this question. Is George Pickens a number one receiver? And I don't mean talent because y'all know what I feel as far as talent. George Pickens, in my opinion, is a top 10, maybe a top 5 talent in the National Football League when it comes to wide receiver. But if you're just talking about wide receiver, is he a number one? First of all, I think people get confused because there's 32 teams in the National Football League. Well, everybody's got to have a number one. Where does that cut off? You know what I'm saying? Like, are there 32 number ones just because there's number one receivers? Because that can't be true because T. Higgins isn't a top 15 wide receiver and he's not the number one on his team. So that's the whole thing. It's like, where's the cutoff? Maybe that's the better question. In your all's eyes, where's the cutoff when it comes to a number one wide receiver? Like, are there 15 of them in the National Football League? I think that's probably the right number. I think 15, maybe 18. And I think, okay, then you got to start going a different direction. You know, because there are talented guys, but is everybody a number one? That's the difference. So that's the difference. My man S. Palmer says Antonio Brown was a number one. Absolutely. I mean, Antonio Brown was, I'm not sure there's 10 receivers that ever played in the National Football League that were better than Antonio Brown. Capricorn Steel says Austin's potential, a great wide receiver 3. I'll be willing to go out, Mr. Capricorn Steel, right this very second. If the Steelers bring in a legitimate number 2, I would say the Steelers wide receiver room goes up to the top, not at the top of the league. I'm not saying it's the best of the league, but it goes into the upper echelon if they bring in a legitimate number 2 receiver, because Calvin Austin would be the best number 3 receiver in the league. Just my opinion. Now, I'm sure if I dig deep, maybe I can find some other number 3s that are better than him. But where? Where do you find that? I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just 3 receivers. And I'm sure if we go through the list of teams, we can find 3 receivers on a team that might be better than what the Steelers have. First off, we got to address it. Okay, we can't just sit here and talk about it. First off, we got to address it. So let's do it. Mr. Woody says CA is a nice number 4. He's better than the 4th guy. He's better than a 4th guy. There's so many times that Calvin Austin was open this year that they just didn't throw him the ball because he's running a shallow cross or a slant underneath and he's open and they just don't throw him the football. So there were so many times. Like I said, I'm going back and doing these all 22s for the members of the entire football game, and I'm watching. There's 3 or 4 times every single game that Calvin Austin is running free, either on a slant or a shallow cross, that he's wide open, and they just don't throw him the football because won't throw the ball over the middle of the field. So draft Milroe and make him slash. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Steelers, if you have Justin Fields, you don't need slash. So, no way that CA is the best wide receiver, number 3. Who's better? And you may be right. I'm just asking, who's a better number 3 receiver? Since you say there's no way, who's the 3rd receiver that's better? And again, you could be right. Pickens wouldn't be a number one, says Palmer, on all 32 teams. No, he wouldn't. But you could say that about a lot of guys. And you could say that about top guys. For instance, CeeDee Lamb. If CeeDee Lamb played in Cincinnati, would he be a number one receiver? No. Hell, it would be close as a number two. You know? So you could say that. I mean, saying he's not a number one on all 32 teams, I mean, I get it, but there's guys that are better than him. But I think I get your premise and your point. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Mark Tobin says, I'm sorry, we could easily bounce back from Pickens, but the Steelers operate the way they do, which would be the only downfall. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. So, you don't even know who Cincinnati's number 3 receiver is, so no, you wouldn't take him over Calvin Austin. So stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I get it now. We want to hate on guys. He's not 5'7". We want to hate on guys, and I get it. That's what we do on the internet. But you don't even know who Cincinnati's number 3 receiver is, and so why would you take him over Calvin Austin when you know what he is? So, I understand we're mad at who? Mad at Pickens self-made? I mean, look, Pickens is the thing about Pickens is his talent is so incredible. That's why the Steelers haven't given up on him. It's because his talent is incredible. Like I said, I think he's a top 5 talent. So he's a top 5 talent in the league. He is. That doesn't mean he's a top 5 receiver in the league, though, because that he is not. That he's not. So, and Ali, you're exactly right. Pickens, Russ looked other ways on critical downs other than George Pickens, but I don't think Russ trusted Pickens. I think that's part of it because Pickens was half-assing routes half the time out there on passing down. So what do you do? So that's the thing. That's the whole thing. It's like, what are we doing? I don't know. I don't know. I like Pickens. He's got a lot to learn. He's got a lot to get better at. But either way, the Steelers got to upgrade the room. They got to upgrade the room. They got to fix. Those are the things that the Steelers have to fix, man. They got to fix quarterback, obviously. They got to fix the running game, which includes the O-line and running backs, and they got to fix the wide receiver room. Those are the things that they got to do. Now, obviously, we're just talking offense because I could go into a list of things that the Steelers have to do on the defensive side. But as far as offensive football goes, we got to do it. We got to get quarterback solved in the next couple of days. Then we got to go D-line. We got to get corner, I think, addressed in free agency and D-line. We got to get that. So that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. So it's just crazy. Crazy what we got to do. There's a lot of holes, man, for a team that made the playoffs. And that's, to me, that's what's insane. It's a lot of holes for a team that made the playoffs. I just, whew. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So we will see what happens. I'm excited. I think we got a lot going for us. We're going to have to do it, but we got to get it done. We got to get it done, man. So, all right, people, I'm going to shut this one down for today. I appreciate everybody being in here. Thank you guys for showing up and showing out like you always do. I appreciate you. Tomorrow, the big show is coming on. Make sure you guys are there for the whole big show with me and Big G. We're going to be breaking down a lot of stuff. We're going to have some combine talk. I'm sure we're going to be breaking down Big Board, Big G and his big board. We're going to break that down, have a lot to say. Hopefully, we get some more news and we find out some more stuff on what the Steelers are doing as far as the quarterback position. So appreciate you guys, man. Y'all have a good one. Aloha.